Imagine an organization that existed for hundreds of years. An organization whose members could infiltrate any palace, eliminate a ruler, and disappear without a trace. Sultans feared them, Crusaders hated them, and their name became legend. But the most terrifying part is this: they may never have truly disappeared. Today we dive into the history of the Order of the Assassins. Who were they really? Fanatics, military geniuses, or the world's first secret intelligence agency? And why, even after centuries, does the word assassin still mean killer? 11th century. The Middle East is in chaos. The Islamic world is divided. Seljuks, caliphates, Crusaders, all fighting for power. These are not just wars of armies. They are wars of ideology, religion, and dynasties, where every ruler fears betrayal more than battle itself. In this chaos appears Hasan ibn Sabbah. He was a brilliant student who studied mathematics, philosophy, religion, astronomy, and politics. And he understood one thing above all: the world is controlled not by force, but by fear and information. He observed how empires fall not because of battlefield defeats, but because of panic, rumors, and internal betrayal. Hassan was feared and called either a prophet or a demon. His personality became so controversial that even his existence turned into legend. He joined the Ismailis, a persecuted branch of Islam rejected by the majority Muslim world. They lived as a minority without a state, without an army, but with a strong internal structure of belief and discipline. Hassan's idea was radical. If you cannot defeat empires with force, you can control them from within. For that, he needed a fortress. 1090. The mountains of Persia, Alamut Castle, the eagle's nest. It stood high above the valleys, almost unreachable by armies. It was not taken by storm, it was taken by intellect. Hassan gained control through infiltration, persuasion, and gradual takeover. He sent his people as teachers, officials, and advisors until control of the fortress shifted without a major battle. Thus began what would later be called the Order of the Assassins. But this was not a romantic knightly order. It was a rigid system of discipline, secrecy, and absolute control. Hassan built a structure where each member knew only what was necessary for their mission. Hierarchy was closed, information was compartmentalized. Loyalty was tested over years. His followers did not fear death, but even more importantly, they were willing to wait years for a single command. Inside Alamut, training included not only combat skills, but also psychological endurance, disguise, covert communication, and the ability to live undercover in hostile cities. Candidates were tested for years. Many broke long before becoming full operatives. There is a legend that assassins were drugged into intoxication and shown a paradise garden to ensure loyalty. But historians still debate whether this is truth or enemy propaganda created to explain their devotion. Perhaps the reality was simpler and even darker. Absolute belief, isolation, and total information control. The assassins did not fight armies, they operated surgically. One target, one strike. Their strategy was not to destroy armies, but to remove key figures within systems. They studied their targets for years: routines, fears, habits, environments, even trusted allies. And they struck when it seemed impossible. They used daggers as their signature weapon. Not because of primitiveness, but because of psychological impact. It required close contact, signaling total confidence and willingness to die. They wanted assassinations to be visible and public. The message was clear: no one is safe, even in the center of their own guard. 1092, the assassination of Nizam al-Mulk. One of the most powerful men of his era, the Grand Vizier and architect of the Seljuk political system, was killed by an assassin. This strike did not just shift political balance, it created a shockwave across the entire region. A wave of panic began. Rulers started fearing their own servants, guards, even relatives. Legends about the assassins began to exist independently of reality. Fear of them became stronger than their actual power. Rumors changed how entire empires behaved. Emperors redirected resources from warfare to protection against an invisible enemy. The Crusaders encountered the order during the Crusades and were deeply shocked. For them, this was a completely new form of warfare. Not open battle, but hidden strikes against key figures. Stories grew about superhuman abilities, invisibility, and total infiltration capability. The more fear spread, the stronger their image became. Even Saladin encountered the assassins. According to accounts, he received warnings in the form of daggers left in his camp. Whether literal or symbolic, the psychological effect was fully achieved. After this, he strengthened his security and became significantly more cautious. The assassins effectively forced the most powerful rulers of their time to change behavior without direct war. Most stories about them were written by their enemies, especially during periods of religious and political propaganda. Thus, the line between myth and reality is extremely blurred. Perhaps they were not mystical killers, but an extremely effective political organization using asymmetric warfare long before the concept existed in modern military theory. Their primary weapons were reputation, fear, and unpredictability. Even a single successful operation had more impact than entire armies in the field. The Mongol Empire emerged as a force that did not play by traditional rules. They destroyed entire cities, leaving no room for negotiation, intimidation, or survival. The assassins could not adapt to this kind of warfare. 1256, the Mongols surrounded Alamut. After a short but brutal campaign, the fortress fell. Libraries were destroyed, archives burned, and a vast amount of knowledge was lost forever. With it disappeared a large part of the real history of the assassins, leaving only fragments and legends. But even after their fall, their influence did not disappear. The idea of targeted eliminations, covert operations, and psychological warfare continued in various forms throughout later centuries. The assassins vanished as an organization, but not as a concept. And now the main question remains. Who were they really? Religious fanatics? Political engineers? Terrorists? Or people so far ahead of their time that the world was forced to turn them into legend? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most mysterious organizations, don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more dark historical stories, secret orders, and untold events from the past. And tell me in the comments, do you think the assassins were misunderstood visionaries or history's first masters of psychological warfare?